I think all of us as teachers want a meaningful conversation with our students, right? We all want to be able to chat with them like we're really close friends. And we prepare and we work and we study the material and we even follow the teacher manual and it gives these good questions. And then we go into the classroom and we ask the questions, and for whatever reason, they kind of fall flat. We're getting glazed looks. And when we finally get a student to respond, okay, he responded, all right, let's go on to the next thing. I'm going to suggest that once a student has responded, ask one or two more questions. Let me show you what I mean. So in the coming weeks, you're going to be doing 1 John 1 through 5. It's asking your students to read 1 John 4, 8 through 6, or 8 and 16, looking for ways John described God. I'm going to tap on these verses. We'll go over to them. And I'm going to have my students read 1 John 4, 8, and then also 16. So remember what we're looking for, students. We're looking for ways that John describes God. Verse 8, he that loveth not knoweth not God, for God is love. So students, did you catch that? We might ask, how does John describe God here? Then we'll look again in verse 16. And we have known and believed the love that God hath to us. God is love. And he that dwelleth in love dwelleth in God, and God in him. So it's an obvious question, students. But I'm going to hear from Jack. Jack, I can tell you were reading those verses. It was repeated twice. How does John describe God? And or Jack says love. Okay, excellent, Jack. Now you're chatting with Jack, and you say, Jack, I want you to tell me the answer to this question. And I'm just going to go back to the teacher manual. Here it says, the second question here, why do you think God could be described as love? So it's a pretty good question, and there's some other good questions here. Do you feel that Heavenly Father and Jesus Christ love you personally? Why or why not? That's a good question, but it's kind of a tough one, right? More personal. So I might say something like this. So, Jack, I want you to respond, why do you suppose that God would be described as love? And then Jack gives a response. And perhaps right here, it's your moment to be able to say, Jack, I just want you to tell me a little bit more. Keep talking. Now, he may say, I don't know what else to say. You could say something like this. Okay, I want you to keep thinking about why God would be described as love. We're going to hear from a couple other people, and then I'm going to try to come back to you. If you have anything to add, you can. So Susie, we'll hear from you, and then Alejandro will hear from you, and we go from Susie to Alejandro, and we ask them the same question. Why do you suppose God would be described as love? And as they're responding in those questions, I can ask both of them, Susie, tell me more. Or maybe she says something like, well, God is love because of the way he has created this earth. Then you can say something like, how is it that the creation of the earth, Susie, is an image of God's love? And hopefully Susie will be able to respond to that. And I haven't forgotten Jack, right? I'm going to go back to Jack. That model of being able to chat with your students and continue to engage them after they've responded once will help your class be so much more alive. Let's look at one more example. We have these great verses about ways to show God love. And hereby we do know that we know him if we keep his commandments. He that saith, I know him, and keepeth not his commandments is a liar, and the truth is not in him. But whosoever keepeth his word, in him verily is the love of God perfected. Here's 2 John 1, 6, 8, and 9. And this is love, that we walk after his commandments. I love these verses. They're so pretty. My little children, let us not love in word, neither in tongue, but in deed and in truth. I've decided that I'm going to assign these 3 verses out to 3 different groups by birthday. If you were born January through April, then you're the first one, and so forth. And everybody has a verse. Somebody in group 1, somebody in group 2, somebody in group 3. I'm going to ask just one simple question, and it's this question right here. What truths did you find? And the next question is given to me. How might knowing these truths increase someone's desire to keep the commandments? Okay, Lucy, I'd like to hear from you. How might knowing the truths that we've identified from these 3 sets of verses increase someone's desire to keep the commandments? And then Susie responds, and we ask after she's done responding, Susie, I'm going to ask you one more question, and if you need time to think about it, you totally can have that time. But here it is. I would just like you to tell me a little bit more. about why your desire increases as you come to know these truths. So just one more question, and it doesn't need to be a prepared question. It can be a simple question like, would you please keep talking? Or please tell me more? Or if they've said something that was meaningful and useful, then you can follow up with a question that is directly related to them. By the way, if you're stumbling over your questions and it's like, that's okay. Let them see you be a human. And we want to be able to have meaningful, organic conversations with these, our students. Ask one more question. Thanks, sisters and brothers. See you next time.